WorldCoin has finally launched. So far, the controversial crypto project has scanned over 2 million eyes around the world to develop what it claims is a decentralized digital ID in exchange for crypto. Naturally, there have been plenty of concerns and opinions about WorldCoin, and no shortage of speculation about whether its associated cryptocurrency is the next big thing or another VC pump and dump. Today, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about WorldCoin, including where it came from, how it works, whether it's worth it, and which of the conspiracy theories may be true. If you're a long-time viewer of the channel, you'll know we covered WorldCoin when it first went viral back in October 2021. That was nearly 2 years ago. Where does the time go? So we reckon a refresher is required. Now, we'll keep the project's history short for the sake of time. You can check out our first video for more info on that front. Okay, so WorldCoin was founded by Sam Altman, Max Novenstern, and Alex Blania. Sam Altman is, of course, the co-founder of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. He came up with the idea for WorldCoin in 2019 and brought Max, a philosopher, and Alex, a physicist, on board to make it a reality. To that end, they incorporated an American software company called Tools for Humanity in August 2019. What's strange is that the official website for the company only notes Sam and Alex as being co-founders. This could be because Max appears to have stepped away from the project in January 2021. Before that, Max had served as the CEO of WorldCoin. Since that time, Alex has become the CEO and the de facto face of the project. As for Sam, meanwhile, Alex mentioned in an interview from March 2022 that Sam is currently the chairman and revealed that Sam apparently signs off on everything that Alex does. This would make sense considering that the purpose of WorldCoin is to help humanity adjust to the effects of AI, at least on paper. Now, Sam believes that AI will lead to a massive concentration of wealth that can only be mitigated through universal basic income, or UBI, something that will be paid for by AI. Logically, this requires a global digital ID of some kind to ensure that everyone is getting their fair share. At the same time, a digital ID will make it possible to differentiate between humans and increasingly human-like AI. And this has become another selling point for WorldCoin since the release of ChatGPT. WorldCoin initially wanted to stay in stealth mode, but a Bloomberg journalist blew the lid on the project in June 2021. Later that year, the project raised $25 million from crypto VCs and came out of stealth mode. It has since raised an additional $215 million from crypto VCs, grand total $240 million big ones. In October last year, the WorldCoin Foundation was incorporated in the Cayman Islands. Its website notes that the foundation is, quote, memberless, meaning it has no owners or shareholders. Instead, it's governed by a board consisting of 3 people, who in turn govern the crypto project itself. The WorldCoin Foundation's website also specifies that its purpose includes, quote, helping achieve certain targets of UN Sustainable Development Goal 16. Now, for context, the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are the origin of all the dystopian technologies being pushed on the population, including digital ID, CBDCs, and smart cities. More about that later. Now, in March this year, WorldCoin revealed its digital ID, dubbed World ID, along with a software developer kit to leverage it. In May, it launched a crypto wallet dubbed the World app, and late last month it launched the WorldCoin token with the ticker WLD on Optimism, a layer 2 for Ethereum. So, how does it all work? Well, it all begins with the orb, the device used by WorldCoin to scan your eye and generate a World ID. To WorldCoin's credit, they provide an extremely detailed technical breakdown of the orb on their website. Alex explained in an interview that it cost them $50 million to develop. It's seriously high-tech. The only thing the WorldCoin website doesn't seem to mention is where these orbs are made. WorldCoin's orbs are reportedly manufactured in Germany for Tools for Humanity, the aforementioned software company behind WorldCoin. According to the WorldCoin website, there are 360 active orbs. These orbs are operated by aptly titled orb operators, who are hand-picked by WorldCoin. There's an application process on their website. Alex revealed in an interview that orb operators make anywhere between $1 and $5 for every person they convince to look into the orb, paid in unspecified stablecoins. Obviously, this gives orb operators a huge incentive to scan as many eyes as possible. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, over 2 million people have scanned their eyes so far, specifically their iris, that's the coloured part of the eye. That's because every person's iris is unique and difficult to fake, especially to an orb. And of course, it's the iris scanning that has everyone concerned. Well, the good news is that WorldCoin no longer collects data by default. WorldCoin's old website noted that it was sending all orb-related data to Tools for Humanity for training purposes. Today, however, you have the option to opt out of this data collection. The bad news is that it's not yet possible to verify if this data is being processed locally on the orb and deleted after registration when you opt out of data collection. That's because not all of the orb has been open-sourced. As you can see, only the hardware is open-sourced. This means you must trust WorldCoin. And before you scan your iris, you need to download the World app, which comes with its own set of privacy concerns. Now, the World app is used to create and scan the QR code which the orb associates with your iris. This information is then uploaded as a hash, a unique number, to Ethereum's Optimism. Because the orb deletes all this data, assuming, of course, you opted out, and because the hash isn't connected to your personal identity, the resulting World ID preserves your privacy, at least in theory. In practice, the fact that your World ID is connected to your wallet addresses on your World app threatens this privacy. If you watched our video about how blockchain analytics companies track transactions, you'll know that's because of all the KYC at crypto on and off ramps. The moment you send or receive crypto to or from the World app using an exchange you've completed KYC on, it becomes very easy to identify you. Now, if you're wondering why anyone would line up to have their iris scanned given these circumstances, well, the answer is money, or rather, gains from the WLD tokens that all World ID holders receive. Fortunately, or unfortunately, claiming WLD tokens is not as straightforward nor as profitable as expected. WorldCoin's FAQ page notes that World ID holders only get 1 WLD per week. To claim this free WLD, World ID holders must open the World app on a regular basis after getting their World ID. This gives the illusion that the app has lots of users, something that Alex has questionably boasted about in interviews. But back to the WLD token. Now, WLD's tokenomics have been infamously difficult to find, despite being clearly noted on the WorldCoin website. That's because the tokenomics section of the white paper is blocked in so many countries that even crypto news company CoinDesk had a hard time accessing it. We managed to get access to this info by using a VPN set to Puerto Rico, in case anyone's wondering. Now, WLD is an ERC20 token on both Ethereum and Optimism. It has an initial supply of 10 billion, which is intended to correspond to 1 WLD per person, 7.5 billion people, plus 2.5 billion WLD for WorldCoin and the project's early investors. The tokenomics notes this supply could change in the future. For now, WLD has no inflation, but an aggressive vesting schedule with the following participants as recipients. 75% to the WorldCoin community, held by the WorldCoin Foundation, around 10% to the initial team, around 2% for a reserve held by Tools for Humanity, and around 13% to early investors. Given that WorldCoin raised $240 million, this means that it sold WLD to early investors at an average price of around 20 cents per token. The WLD tokens allocated to the team, Tools for Humanity, and early investors will only begin vesting in 1 year. For now, it's only the community tokens that are vesting. Now, this doesn't look like much from a distance, but when you zoom in, you can clearly see that the community token vesting schedule alone is extremely aggressive. Right now, there are just over 100 million WLD in circulation. By the end of the year, there will be over 1 billion WLD in circulation. Now, the caveat is that not all of this WLD can or will be sold. You'll recall that World ID holders are only receiving 1 WLD per week. Although over 2 million people have scanned their iris, WorldCoin's own June Analytics dashboard suggests there are only 1 million World App wallets, 50% conversion, so to speak. This means that there will be no more than 1 million WLD being sold each week. Now, assuming a WLD price of around $2.50, that's only $2.5 million of sell pressure each week. Even then, this assumes that the 1 million World App users are taking the time to periodically log in and claim their WLD. A few $1 million of sell pressure each week isn't all that much. To be fair, this assumes that the number of WLD sellers won't increase, but that's arguably safe to assume. Not many people are going to scan their eye for $2 a week, hence the reportedly slow uptake, which WorldCoin denies. Now, the only wild card on the supply side is the WorldCoin Foundation, which could sell and give away WLD to fund all the stuff noted here. On that note, the WorldCoin white paper notes that the WorldCoin Foundation controls all WorldCoin smart contracts with a 4 of 6 multi-sig wallet. That is what we call centralized. In any case, on the demand side, we have, well, nothing, at least for now. The WorldCoin white paper notes that WLD is a utility token, but states that, quote, the community of users will determine the token's utility. The thing is that the WorldCoin community currently has no way of doing this. Regardless, the absence of demand drivers could mean that the small amount of new supply coming from World ID users and the WorldCoin Foundation could be enough to suppress its price once the hype has faded. If utility isn't introduced in a year's time, selling by other WLD recipients could crash it. Now, as with all crypto projects, WLD's potential ultimately depends on WorldCoin's roadmap. The closest thing that WorldCoin has to a roadmap is its, quote, open source roadmap, which has no specific dates, but the milestones are straightforward. Open source everything as soon as possible. Not a bad plan. Besides that, there are no shortage of milestones to be found in interviews with the team and on the WorldCoin website. For starters, WorldCoin wants to decentralize everything. This is going to require creating a robust governance process, which is presumably in the process of being put together. Alex also mentioned in an interview earlier this year that WorldCoin will eventually be creating its own Layer 2 for Ethereum, which will be home to the World ID protocol. It seems that WorldCoin is planning to expand to Solana as well, and apparently has plans to introduce an on-chain credit score. Yikes. And speaking of dystopian stuff, WorldCoin is in the process of ramping up production of its orbs and wants to have 1,500 of them in circulation by the end of the year. Alex said there will eventually be multiple orb manufacturers, something that's technically possible already due to its open-sourced hardware. For what it's worth, Alex also said that it will eventually become possible for individual people to create their own orb from scratch if they want. This is reminiscent of Helium, the peer-to-peer internet crypto project that also open-sourced its hardware and has many manufacturers and DIYers building its hotspots. And the WorldCoin website's metrics page also appears to contain a hidden milestone. One of the metrics is planets, which is defined as, quote, total number of planets where sign-ups have been conducted with an orb. Now, call me crazy, but this seems to foreshadow WorldCoin expanding to, well, other planets. Probably just a joke. What's not so funny, however, is the information on WorldCoin's risks page, which is almost hidden at the bottom right-hand corner of the website. Quotes from this page have gone viral, and for good reason. They basically reveal the conditions under which the project could fail, and these conditions are quite possible. First, WorldCoin warns that because the project aims to become decentralized, success may not be guaranteed. Quote, "There are significant uncertainties as to how these technologies function at scale and the extent to which users around the world will find the project and the WLD token useful." In other words, as we start to hand the project to the community, they could run it into the ground. Now, this is a legitimate risk, considering that the current incentive among all WLD holders is to sell. The entire reason they scanned their eyes was to make a profit. If there's no profit, they are gone. Second, WorldCoin warns that the crypto project will fail if the foundation can't sell enough WLD to fund ecosystem development. Quote, "Acceptance of the WLD tokens distributed by us requires that there be outlets to transfer WLD tokens to others or to spend tokens as a currency, which may not develop or grow with sufficient scale to support successful growth and adoption of the protocol." Now, this is a very big risk when you remember that the Foundation's ability to sell WLD fundamentally depends on there being strong demand drivers for the token, which are currently absent. This could create a chicken and egg problem where demand drivers can't be introduced unless WLD is sold. Third, WorldCoin warns that the project will fail if it doesn't get enough adoption. Quote, "If over time the numbers of individuals and businesses that chose to utilize WLD is limited, we may be forced to cease operations that support the project." Also, quote, "In this case, it is possible that owners of WLD may no longer be able to utilize their tokens or realize any value from WLD they purchased or hold." Now, this is scary because WorldCoin doesn't specify what limited means. To put things into perspective, WorldCoin initially believed that it would onboard over 1 billion people by this point, but it seems to be stuck at just over 2 million. Again, this is simply because nobody will scan their eyes for $2 a week. Fourth, WorldCoin warns that regulations could kill the project. Quote, "Developments or changes in regulatory treatment or unanticipated enforcement activity could negatively affect the WLD tokens in various ways, including, for example, through a determination that the verification mechanism is unlawful under data protection regulations or that the WLD tokens are regulated financial instruments." In this case, WorldCoin makes it clear that, quote, "Any such determination may result in a termination of WLD distribution or of the project itself." And as some of you may have heard, regulators in Europe are already investigating WorldCoin over its data practices. If they find significant issues, it's probably over. Fifth, WorldCoin warns that crypto regulations could also kill the project. Quote, "Certain jurisdictions, including the European Union, China, Russia, and Turkey, have already adopted laws, regulations, or directives that may affect the Ethereum and Optimism blockchain networks in general, and the project in particular." Pretty self-explanatory. Sixth, WorldCoin warns that the success or failure of the project depends heavily on the hardware, the orbs. Quote, "The success of the project depends significantly on our ability to produce, distribute, and service a hardware device known as the orb and its related software, which is used to produce a unique verified code known as a world ID for each user." Alex mentioned in many interviews that they were having issues with producing orbs during the pandemic due to the chip shortage. The energy crisis in Europe, which hit Germany hard, and ongoing geopolitical tensions between China, Russia, and the West could continue to impede orb production. And finally, WorldCoin warns that any data issues could be the end too. Quote, "If security or data privacy breaches occur, or if there are incidents of other unauthorized or improper access to, use of, or destruction of user data, the ability of the project to continue functioning could be disrupted or terminated." So, this brings us to the concerns that we have about WorldCoin, and trust me when I say that we have no shortage of them. Our first concern relates to what some would say are misleading claims about the project by the team. Let's start with a classic claim. World ID is decentralized. Aside from the fact that the WorldCoin Foundation controls all of WorldCoin's smart contracts with that 4 of 6 multisig wallet, Optimism is also controlled by a multisig. We couldn't find how many signers there are, but it doesn't change the fact that World ID is not that decentralized. Layer 2s are centralized. The other claim is that WorldCoin hasn't been targeting developing countries, a criticism that's been raised on many occasions. Now, this claim is inconsistent with the distribution of WLD and the location of most of WorldCoin's orbs. Both seem to be concentrated in developing countries. Never mind Alex claiming in interviews that the World app has lots of active users when, well, they're likely just checking to claim their WLD. Our second concern relates to regulations. In March last year, Alex did an interview with the Epicenter podcast, and one of the hosts made a very powerful prediction. The rollout of WorldCoin will be the Libra moment for governments around the world, and some would say we're starting to see that already. For reference, Libra was the crypto project revealed by Facebook in 2019. If you've watched any of our videos about crypto regulations, you'll know that Libra was the catalyst for regulatory concerns. Governments were terrified of a corporation introducing a currency that would compete with their fiat currencies. From our perspective, governments also want to maintain control of the identity of their citizens. This is as much, if not more important, than maintaining control of a currency. They need to know who their citizens are and have some idea of what they're doing and where they are, be it for tax purposes or otherwise. WorldCoin could interfere with this imperative. That would mean another wave of crypto crackdowns, this time on decentralized digital ID, which, make no mistake, is badly needed. The fact that governments are in the process of introducing their own digital IDs makes such a crackdown seem very likely. This ties into our third concern, and that's that WorldCoin's technology will be adopted by our governments. Now, as amazing as it is that everything about WorldCoin is going to be open source, it also means that anyone will be able to develop their own orb and blockchain and digital ID. The only hurdle will be hardware, and this is the pain point that governments could press. Similar to their restrictions around AI, they could restrict certain digital ID-related hardware for government use. It's possible that creating this hardware was the true purpose of WorldCoin. Recall its UN connections. And this relates to our fourth concern, and that's that WorldCoin's mission seems to have shifted over time. When it began, it was all about UBI. Now it seems to have shifted its focus to fighting deepfakes and the like. Even then, it's unclear what WorldCoin's mission currently is, nor how it plans on achieving it. More circumstantial evidence to the idea that it was never about the crypto and all about the hardware. Conspiracy theories aside, WorldCoin's initial mission actually makes no sense when you think about it. Remember how Sam said that UBI is needed because of the concentration of wealth that will occur because of AI. Well, this concentration will only occur if AI remains closed-sourced and controlled. If AI is made open source and available to the average person, then this concentration of wealth probably won't occur. Of course, open source AI is something that neither the corporations nor governments want. At one extreme, it would allow for total freedom. At the other extreme, total chaos. However, making AI available to as many people as possible is arguably preferable to letting companies like Microsoft and governments like China maintain total control of it. The same is true for other powerful technologies like digital ID, and I'll reiterate that we desperately need a truly decentralized digital ID. So, while WorldCoin may not be the technology we need, it could nonetheless be a step in the right direction. At the very least, it has everyone talking about what to do about digital ID, and this counts as a step forward in our book. The sooner we reclaim our identities as individuals, the better. After all, we could have all the decentralized money in the world, but if our identities are still centrally controlled by governments, it may not matter. If there's anything we've learned about decentralizing identity, it's that the hardware matters a lot. So, let's hope it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And that's all for today's video, folks. If you learned something new, let me know by smashing that like button. If you want to make sure you keep learning, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell. If you want to help others learn, take a second to share this video with them. And if you've learned enough to know that you've got to stack sats, make sure you're storing them in a secure way and acquiring them without paying too much in fees. The Coin Bureau deals page has the biggest discounts on the best hardware wallets and up to $40,000 in airdrops and bonuses on the most liquid exchanges. The link is down in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Guy, over and out.